or Ascending Augments. We were just treated to Ascending Augments, but there is going to be maybe potentially more variants happening as choices are being made.
I do want to highlight while we go into this game, the inertia that two players have, Darkus and Mauled, started off with a 7th. There is a cutoff after this day 1. There is that element of I can't just go 8th three times in a row because I'm in big trouble. And they both started off with a 7th, then came in with a big win last game. I wonder if that inertia will continue in this game 3.
On the flip side, I mean, Robin Songs, right? This is a player who, you look at his story in TFT. Up to this point in time, Robin is kind of, despite everything that he does in the game, is kind of the forever underdog, right? He wins regional finals in set 5. Everyone says Milk is the favorite. He wins regionals in set 12. Everyone says Milk is the favorite. It truly is the set 5.5 revival, and Robin Songs not having like the expected results in the first 2 games. You know, he's back again with a chance to change that inertia.
Yeah, but speaking of Robin, right? Robin's really good at getting to the final day of things, so definitely expect to see him kind of come back from this 6 points so far.
We saw earlier the multi-striker not really working out for Robin there. It's a comp that, especially in the Americas, has not really been working out generally. But we in EMEA, Panda, we saw a bunch of it. And what do you think was kind of the missing factor for Robin? Because he wasn't really contested.
One big difference I noticed in the regional finals for both of our regions comparing is that there was a lot more Jax Ashe reroll compared to just the Kassadin reroll.
In the Americas.
In the Americas.
Yeah.
In the EMEA, Stink Abuser was the kind of one-trick pony or one-trick Kassadin in this case.
Nice.
And it was all about Kassadin, the very high tempo, stage 3 especially, where you're able to save so much HP. Sometimes we saw, quite regularly really, the 8 to 10 win streak throughout stage 2 and 3. And with that HP lead coming to stage 4 with 90 HP, you have a very high chance of having consistent top 4 results.
All right, Darkus. Off with a pretty general start. I mean, honestly, nothing too crazy here. It's like
a lot of options.
It's the silver augment with an open bench. You got a million different options to choose from. Like nothing too crazy exciting here.
Well, branching out could make things crazy exciting. We'll see if it's an option, of course. A lot of randomness, but right now there are so many great hits that it kind of ceases to be random as long as you have a good understanding of a wide selection of lines. Also, Pandora's Bench could be an interesting one, especially depending on what players we have in the lobby. Some players definitely like that variant a little bit more than others.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, Pandora's Bench and branching out are the 2 most common that I would personally expect to be taken this weekend. I didn't quite see anything. The others that are quite strong, though, are things like this, where you get this, what's this called? This is not helpful on the way. Stationary support. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Support me, please.
Right.
The augments where after a period of time, you're able to get a boost in combat. And actually, it follows the shape of this patch quite well, right? Where you kind of sacrifice some of stage 2, and then in stage 3, you try and slingshot. You start to try and get that streak going.
Yeah, that's interesting here, because there's a big tempo start here for Darkus. They had 3 upgraded units, right, at 2-1. And with the units, right, the Hunters would think, okay, yeah, maybe we're going to a Jinx Wukong kind of line, but slamming that Ionic Spark in the early game, it's just huge tempo, and we can pivot to a plethora of AP lines from there.
And right away, Darkus moving off of their strategy for the start of this tournament up until now. Played 2 games of Hunters, now Ionic Spark Slam, not so much leaning into that Jinx anymore. Someone like Stink in a different lobby also played 2 games of Hunters. So EMEA in general seem to have started off with a very strong penchant for this Jinx reroll. We'll see how that evolves across this day 1.
Well, on EMEA, we've seen players play the Syndra line already. Find Vintage this time around is actually one of those lines where it can be valuable. You know, a lot of people play it with something like the multi-strikers, but you can see it already. I mean, this guy's angling in a line that we saw him play multiple times in TOC and has already played today.
So a big trend I've been seeing with stuff like the Syndra line is that the Vanguard units are so highly contested that it's very hard to get it off the ground in terms of front line. And I think that's going to be a big problem for most of these players that are opting to go into something like the Syndra, whether it is more on the Eldritch side or the Encounter side of things.
I do think this will be multis, though. I think it's the clearest line with Find Vintage.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen it before, Duelist. You know, they changed the name, but it's the same exact buff, basically.
It's that,
the melee reroll that really
melee.
benefits from the team-wide buff in terms of having that one hyper melee carry really carry the fights. In that case, Syndra, I think, with Find Vintage, you're too slow to start with someone that has to scale into the late game.
Exactly. That slow start is exactly why I agree with you. I think it's going to be that multi-direction. Not being able to stack Syndra early, right? Not having a mana item like a Shojin, blue buff, something like that. Even Nashers, right? Great to stack in the early game, but not having any of that, not going to be on the table.
Robin Song's very clearly trying to tell the lobby right now, I will be the player playing the Hunter line. I will say there was a handful of players in this lobby up to this point in time who were kind of keeping their options open. I think Darkest comes to mind. Hadn't quite locked into a specific line. While Darkest was playing the AP line, what Robin is trying to do right now is bully any contesters out, right? While they still have time to run, Robin is saying, I'm going level 5. I'm hard forcing a win streak, although I will say this fight in particular up against the Kassadin 2 is the one that he needs the level 5 just to win. It actually looks like he will barely be able to win this unless Ezreal gets the perfect ultimate.
Leveling and losing. Tragedy.
Gangly, we are 3 fights in, and you're already caster cursing your players. I'm down.
Incredible. No, we're here to watch that, but you were kind of talking about Darkest briefly, and Darkest is a player I'm really excited to watch because they always find creative avenues to lines even when they are a little bit contested. So if there's any player in this lobby I wouldn't worry about on a contested line, it has to be Darkest.
Okay.
There might be a contest between Dish Soap and Hwanmye. Dish Soap is holding on to multi-units. We'll see if that's just temporary. Hasn't really, committed to rerolling just yet. No real other contest. It seems like Gobo seems free on the Ahri with a Latent Forge potentially into a big artifact for that Ahri to really benefit from.
Mauled does have the Kassadin to do with Hand of Justice. Hand of Justice Slam doesn't really lend itself to playing any sort of backline stuff, though, right? So you're not actually looking into playing something like the Vanguard Blasters. Do you actually think it's a 3-way contest?
No, I'm laughing because of the Nyla possibility. It's been 3 days of prepping, and we've heard about Nyla from Gangly quite often.
I cannot hear Nyla anymore. It's been incredible how many times this name has been uttered. Her icons have been shown. Gangly has been badgering players to run it, even during her dinner. Like, I'm going to need to stop.
Is this not actually the moment, though? 2-way contested multi-strikers, Hand of Justice slammed on stage 2.
I mean, it could be if you still want to go 6. It's probably going to be that cap of that comp. Just up here playing very high tempo, right? With this opener. Still is pretty open. We're talking about maybe Dish Soap would be in that kind of 3-way contest, but Dish Soap is one of the best players in the Americas, if not the world, to be able to recognize, hey, what other lines can I pivot into for my specific spot? Dish Soap's comp knowledge is by far just some of the best in the world.
We heard it from Clement, the man with a plan.
That's right.
Dish Soap, ever-increasing number of nicknames.
Mauled is a player that I think it's worth highlighting for a moment, right? Mauled got into the Golden Spatula by, as a surprise for many people, and then was not able to prep going into that final event. Had the miracle run of his life to make it into the Tactician's Crown. Now standing here, Game 3, bouncing back after Game 1, and one of 2 players in contention for this 5 streak out at Stage 2.
I think Miracle Run is not quite selling it for a very much underdog Dark Horse player in APAC. 4 wins across their regional finals. Insane performance, 2 of them with blasters. I'm very curious to see what he knows about this comp that other players don't in terms of the results he's been able to manage.
I've been really excited about Bio. So as they are going head-to-head, Bio in that very first game taking a first place on the back of that Mage's Vanguard comp that we've been seeing a bunch about. I really love that, and I'm so eager to see what else he can cook up. It's a player that, notably for me, kind of, I said this earlier, but encapsulates the passion of Brazil TFT, and it's so good to see. It's just, you look at the camera, you look at the play style, and you cannot help but feel joyous.
I have one note for Bio in my prep doc, and it says, the most electric man in the Worlds field.
I'm a little bit worried for Bio, though, in this game. Bio, I think, really excels from playing from ahead, playing from high tempo. So seeing in a spot where not a full loss streak here, actually, is maybe even the worst of both cases, right? He's pretty rich, has 50 gold, but still, I think it's going to be a testament to how Bio perform on the global stage, being able to play from more unfamiliar positions.
Hitting pretty hard here to the Mages. Only played 1 game of Mages in regional finals, so I imagine he has the reps. I think Reroll and Mages have been a big part of the set. Even the Veigar edition, now obviously
he took a first already today with it. I think that's fair enough.
Okay, he already guaranteed that he knows the spots, he knows the roll downs. Big roll down coming in here now. A lot of gold to work with, over 60 We'll see if he can manage to maybe get a little bit fortunate and hit one of those 3 stars on 30 gold or so.
Yeah, already 5 Seraphines.
Also interesting to pay attention, you know, we saw, at least in the Americas, many people flexing between the vertical mage versus the 4 Vanguard. We actually saw the Vanguard version struggle to perform, and now leading into this event, it actually feels like maybe it's a bit more favored by a lot of the participants.
But we did notice in other regions, the Vanguard variant of the mages did kind of thrive. So how is it in EMEA, actually, for the Vanguard mages?
I think it was pretty split. I do think overall it's about not playing something that's contested in terms of if Vanguard as a front line is not contested by any other rerolls and all these Vanguard units are free, why go into, you know, if you're contested on mages, try and find an alternate path to still have that stability in the front line. It's all about stalling. Similar to Syndra, all you need is time for your backline mages to do their thing.
The problem we actually saw with it was that towards that stage 5, you fall off, you just don't have the damage, right? Whereas with the vertical mages, you have the additional AP, you have additional threats. With this, unless you find that Nora 2, it really feels like you have a hard time killing things like a Briar in the late game.
And the real difference is, are you playing mages to top 4? Are you playing mages to spike early, have a stable stage 3 and 4, and then fall off? Or are you playing mages from a learning to spell angle? Certain augments that are conditional, but really elevate that comp into a second or first plate status.
Spin to win being offered there, top left corner. And is going to be picked up as well, despite the spot not really being on that line before.
Mauled has, it looks like, committed to this Kassadin. You can see those itemization from Mauled being 3 very, very strong items for Kassadin. And at this point, the 2 other players that were leaning that way are going to be significantly behind.
Nashers, though, not an item that's typically on that castle.
It is good, though. Trust me.
I'm a believer.
It is so good. You got to watch this cast in this fight, seriously. Watch.
I'm watching. I'm looking.
So
Especially stage 3, it's very good.
This is what's going to happen.
Streaking on 100
Oh,
HP.
this,
It has to be
this
good.
is so juicy, too, with the 1-star front line. Casting a boom, 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 right off the bat. The second that shield comes up, you get the additional attack speed, you get the multi-striker procs. So much damage. It really is powerful.
It's about to die to a Jinx 1, though.
Nah, look at it. Still going.
We're killing, surely.
It's
Oh, Mamma
down.
Jace clears, Jace clears.
Yeah. I think the boom, boom, boom was a little bit too high tempo. They're still going to win the fight.
Win is
but
gonna come
fine.
through.
Look at that.
yeah. Exactly as you drew out. It's perfect.
I will
No
say
notes.
this is a perfect example of what multis is trying to achieve anytime it's played. It is not a comp where you're trying to find the BIS for your reroll unit and spike somewhere in stage 4 once you get your 3-star. It's all about bullying every single comp, especially 1-star backline and frontline end of stage 3. That is the bullying period ideally, and very often you see a 9 to 10 win streak. Stage 4 you try and respike with the 7 multis with Callista, etc. But it's all about preserving HP early, and Mauled is doing exactly that.
Mauled is doing exactly that, but I already called it out when we saw it happen. Spin to win being picked up by Juanmin, and that's bad news for Robin, who was on that Wu Jinx before. Can he find an out? Maybe try and go for a different carry on the lines of Olaf. Could be an option if he's just so fortunate, but could be trouble.
Yeah, remember, this is Fine Vintage, too, so this is like creative TFT at its core, and I think that's something that really Juanmin really excels in, this kind of line. But, I mean, where do we think this is going to go, right? Fine Vintage, Wukong, not really things we see together.
If someone's going to bring creativity to the board, it's going to be Juan.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's part of his essence. Obviously, they haven't been able to prove that in a big way on the world stage for a long time, but this is definitely their chance to do so. And the opposite end of that spectrum in terms of the playstyle, heavy forecast favored is Tucci, and he's someone that he's played so many forecasts. He plays for this open forwarding type of style where you lose streak a lot, get to 30, 40 HP, roll down on stage 4, and then try and stabilize.
Well, Suchi right now is item carrying a Jinx as well. Notably, she has a Chojin, so that was maybe not the unit that we were really going for, as you can see it in our lower third there as well. But I'm really curious on what we're going to be doing on the side of Sushi.
It feels like Callista to me. I didn't see exactly what items picked up, but you have the Shojin there. You're on Law Streak. You're playing Econ heavy. Yep. Not exactly sure. That feels like the most traditional setup in my eyes.
Yeah, 100%. The Shojin's gonna be great for Melio too. Once we pick that up, maybe high roll a bit on level 8 there.
Roll down.
Yeah.
I do think with the setup of units right now, he could be open to playing Smolder, but doesn't really have enough.
Wait, it's Mars. That's
Whoa!
Mars. Three already.
What?
3-5. Hold on, where'd that
How did this happen? Right under our noses.
That's how we were playing Ari. I mean, the items were perfect for Ari, but suddenly a Wit's End comes online. This is the OD bar.
Yes,
we saw
on level 6 as well. Like, what?
That is so cool. Oh, man. So this is something that I love seeing from Gobo, because he just saw kind of the option into the width and say, okay, I roll down, I find all of these Bart units. Yeah, okay, Ari is strong, but look at what this guy can do. And he is going to be so strong from here on out. I really, really love this. And also stops kind of the bleeding on the HP there.
Yeah, did Gobo play this in the EMEA Gold Spatula? Is this some known tech here?
I'll let you know, my read on Gobo in his meta read for finals was just AP in general. He really has perfected all the rerolls. He played 4 games of Rise Flex and did really, really well with it. He knows all the different Rise variations and how to really have those win-out moments. I think in day 3, he played 3 Rise Flex games in a row on a final day to then become, of course, EMEA champion. So any AP, I trust Gobo to play it well.
Okay.
We are seeing now Tucci. Actually, this does kind of look like a soft flex between the two lines that we mentioned earlier, right? And I think ultimately it's going to come down to what happens on that 4-1 roll down. He's positioning himself right now to have a strong economy coming into stage 4, and I think he's actually going to be really sharp because the thing about both of those lines is you have to play on a razor's edge, and once you try to hit that stabilization point, you have very little room for error on actually being able to stabilize. You cannot afford to go win-loss on stage 4, so Tucci cannot afford to be split between 2 lines.
That's absolutely right. We do have a little bit longer until we get there, and the player that was able to stabilize on the back of hitting that unit that he needed is Sobio that we saw on the opposite side there, has found that Seraphine 3, so a big, big upgrade in terms of damage coming to the board. Yeah. That's what that Seraphine will do in the early stages of the game. We're still in stage 3.
It calls back to what David was saying before, right? Like, when you're trying to play these reroll lines, you want to be able to play them from ahead, bully players on stage 3, and then have enough HP in order to secure that top 4, even when you don't have that late game damage.
Robin now on 6 Wukong. I love how Hwanmi this game is the enemy of the state. First was contesting Dish Soap, but then said, you know what, I'm going to contest Robin instead on that spin to win. Now Robin, who already had a rough start to the day in terms of playing rerolls and being contested, is going to have a hard time hitting this Wukong.
Okay, big roll down. This is time for Tucci. Taking a lot of time to actually sell those units, I'm not going to lie.
I mean,
at this point, it's a full commit. We get rid of the shapeshifters. He said, let's keep it simple, clear bench, clear mind, the Briar show.
Wait, watch him get smoldered too on the roll down now.
That'd be crazy.
Morgana's a nice hit as well.
Legendaries,
Second Rakan.
No Kalista yet. Is a little bit
Melio.
He does find
Melio.
Emilio. You're really making the main carry, and you have 2 Razors as well.
Where's Kalista?
Morgana. No Callista. Who's going to carry the items? We have 4 Fairy online.
Zillion. It's time, baby.
The roll down.
Time fly.
Honestly, in the current for fun patch, Zillion's pretty good.
Oh, yeah?
But,
Wait, Zillion's been good in every patch in TFT.
no, he's really good now.
Like
I defend. He's been really good the entire set. He's the clutch master.
He is.
He is. That is true.
Oh, I don't think
Milo.
I don't think Melio's going to be the clutch master here, though. Unfortunately.
Wait, he's getting items, Crow, and you spoke too
Yeah,
soon. He's
so
ready.
many items. Wait, actually, maybe I spoke too soon.
TikTok.
Nope, it was close though.
Well, we are going to be getting our last augments now, and that could put everybody upside down one more time. The Prismatics predicted will come around here, and that is going to be a deciding factor, specifically for those players who are still looking for those caps, for those outs.
Especially
Really
+1.
scared for Tucci. I think this is the downside of this playstyle.
Yeah.
He played in the CN and the TOC finals. I think only 1 game of reroll. The rest all flexible 4-cost, 5-cost game plans. In the lobby tempo we have on this global stage, suddenly if you miss on your roll down, it might be over.
Okay, Tucci took invested there, and it's rolling down, hits Camille too, but we still...
There's not a
there,
single
we found it. Okay, we're good now.
Oh.
But listen, look at the spot we're in now, right? Now all of a sudden we have Camille 2. We
And
have
Rakan 1.
No, but here, the truth is about this comp, usually just being able to 2-star the Rakan or the Callista is plenty stable for stage 4. The biggest issue is that we had to take invested and then roll down to 0 in order to get there. So I think, listen, Tucci's not in a great spot. I don't think I'm ready to say it's doomed yet, though.
Well, you're saying you're stable if you have Rakan or Callista too. My problem is we don't even have that.
We've got time. 30 HP worth of time.
We have a little bit of time, not too much. The big thing was the Camille 2, but she doesn't really have any items, though, unfortunately. It is good enough for now, but this will start falling off here soon.
Thanks, Milio.
And usually the game plan for this kind of playstyle is that 1st or 8th at this point. I think now you're recalibrating your expectations for the lobby. Now it's all about trying to go for that 5th or that 6th.
Yeah.
Because you're down to Prismatic, you're down to Invested, you don't have the 2 stars we mentioned, and every other player is starting to spike with maybe combat strength augments from that Prismatic selection.
Sometimes 5th feels good.
How are we feeling about Juanmi and his spot is my question, because we still haven't found that Wukong 3 on the back of Spin to Win. You would really like to have that. And then the rest of the board is just an arrangement of a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I feel terrible about the spot, actually. If I was Juanmi. I thought Juanmi was cooking.
I was trying to phrase it nicely.
I'm glad you asked.
I'm glad you asked, actually,
hate
because
this.
I do not like this at all. It is a lot of creative TFT. I think maybe if he had hit the Wukong 3 a little bit earlier, we could have had some potential to level up, find some good legendary units put on this board, but it's not close to any other 3-star. Wukong only has 2 items. It's a Hodge Titans. On a 9 loss streak, about to be a 10, I think, for very good reasons. It's going to be very hard to salvage anything out of this game. It's probably an 8th.
Also, Robin had 7 Wukong, so I'm trying to remember bag sizes off the top of my head. If there are 14 Wukongs out of the pool, are there actually enough?
I think Robin is really waiting, probably. He has still 30 gold to work with to wait for the elimination if it comes through for Juanmi. He's on 1 life now. I think it makes a lot of sense, especially with the HP that Robin has. You have a massive buffer. Let your contester go out and then roll.
Well, just a quick note, guys, in case, I feel like we haven't mentioned it for a while. 8 win streak for Sobio. Also finds perfect prismatic there for his mages. So looking in a great spot.
Sobio has been a superstar today, and this is surprising. As someone who's watched the Americas over the last 2 sets, Sobio is someone who has fallen into the shadow of so many Brazilian greats that we've seen for all sets past, right? Ego Illusions, who's here, VCLF, ASO Lucas, and quietly over the last 2 sets has built himself a very strong position. He's been final day in 5 of his last 6 cups, and Sobio now really trying to break out into the limelight.
And there it is for Robin, really thinking about the larger picture, thinking about that stage 5, waiting to roll despite having 35 gold and a 3 loss streak, waiting for Juanmi to get eliminated. If that'll happen in this next round, that could be the case. Then roll for the Wukong and try and go for the Jinx 3 as well on that same roll down.
Ooh, yeah.
Nothing to work with here for Juanmi. Rolls into Tsuchi, who still doesn't have the Rakan or the Kalista too, but I'm afraid that's still gonna be enough to deal with the non-existent Wukong board, really. It's only the monkey and then a supporting crew that won't be able to do anything. Camille's gonna find that backline, and unfortunately for Juanmi, that will be Elimination Station.
That's right, and Robin essentially now a main character here, one of the players who's able to try and slingshot. And it's interesting when David was talking about recalibrating if you're the Kalista player. That's kind of where Robin is right now, right? He actually also has to recalibrate. He can't afford to win rounds in stage 4, and now has to play the Hunter line in more of a win-out angle, which is uncommon for the line.
There's a Kalista 2, big upgrade. 3 win streak for now, so maybe there's still a chance for that calibration to be a top 3, maybe a top 2. This is a very strong come to set up, and obviously you have the upside of finding a Camille 2 very early on.
Yeah, the Camille 2 really is what carried the bridging point between the mid game into the late game here for Tucci. Right, sitting on a pair of Rakans as well. As soon as that Rakan is upgraded, we can save up gold to be able to, maybe push 9, but probably just roll for some good combat charms every rounds. And I think the relative power level of this lobby, that Fairy Comp can do a lot of work.
It absolutely can. The only issue that I'm seeing is that there is a boogeyman in this lobby, and I mentioned it already. Sobio is just having a grand old time against a lot of these boards, and a player that has been on the losing end is Dishsoap, and will get another loss here, 4 losses down, as he is trying to carry that Gwen 1, hasn't found that upgrade just yet.
And Dishsoap, known usually as that 4-cost merchant. This is not really a patch where 4-cost excels in its default state. Under certain conditions, obviously certain 4-costs like Gwen, like Karma can really pop off. Under a default game plan, not so much the kick, which is why I think Dishsoap is suffering here. 4 loss streak in stage 4.
Why is that Bard on the bench?
I'm squinting at my screen. What's going on here, guys?
Maybe someone hasn't noticed it, the game plan, so Gobo's trying to keep it
Oh, I see.
min-max,
hiding?
optimizing everything.
No, but really, why is it there?
I don't know. They'll always do some remover action, then remover the bow, put it on the Melio instead. I mean, of course, you get another remover.
But why did the Bard need to go to the bench for that? It's just a safety measure. You don't accidentally click the Bard.
I guess.
I don't know. What? Are we rolling? Are we actually making something here?
Yeah, he's going back in. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, just a little break for Bard. He was in so early, right? The Bard 3, need to give him a little rest
Yeah.
before going back in.
I understand that.
Recharging, I think.
It's
Yeah.
important, yeah. You need to make sure that your star players have enough energy.
Exactly.
And that Bart sure is the star of that board, but another star has arisen
Wow.
as Robin Song's finally able to get that Wukong and the Jinx online.
Yeah, so well done by Robin, I think. Exactly saying, hey, I can wait this much HP because I played early game so well. Had like 4 losses in a row, but still 54 HP, relatively healthy, hit everything, still has gold to go 8 in the future. Well done by Robin here.
Just watch this Briar. That's going to the back line. I'd like to see deal with this Sunfire, Morello, Zillion in the back line. So much power there. And actually, the Golem coming into the back line might do a little bit, but the front line's going to hold up. The Zillion again with a really clutch stun to actually win Robin the fight over Disho.
Wow, I just,
Good
okay.
unit.
I have one complaint. I get really mad every time I see Thieves Gloves roll into Sunfire and Morello's. It's just something
One day,
just
Crowan,
disturbs
one day.
me
Look at
very
all the
much about
HP
it.
that
At
Zillion
Wood
needed
Dog.
to survive.
Can we?
Can we please just not? It feels so bad every time.
And I do want to say, I think this game 3, unfortunately in some ways, is showcasing why creativity might not be working out as we would like in this current meta.
Yeah.
Hwanmei obviously going 8th, couldn't make it work with the frontline Wukong with spin to win. Gobo with the Bard 3 not doing so hot here as well. Disho suffering.
I will
Don't be
say,
creative.
for Hwanmei, I don't think it was so much to creativity that broke that comp there. I think it was
The contest.
the boldness of it. Going into spin to win when you know another player already has like 6 copies of Wukong and is locked into the Jinx comp.
Yeah.
That is a bully moment. You can win those, but it didn't work out for Hwanmei. I don't think it was a creativity problem.
I feel like we should maybe not represent it as like boldness as much as like desperation, because I have a feeling that Hwanmei was presented options at 3-2 where he maybe leaned into the creativity to say like, how can I bail
Big
myself
fight
out?
there between Gobo and the Callista. Gobo does win, buys himself at least one more round. On 13 HP means that is really just 1 life as we are in stage 5.
Yeah, Disho dropping 1 HP as well. 6 loss streak. It's just this Preserver Flex just not really doing it right around those 4 costs. It's just really not the meta where you can play that from behind.
This is a point for both players where they needed to find a stabilization in game 3 with their standings. 6 points for Gobo, EMEA champion. Disho, one of the favorites coming into this, only on 8 points.
Yeah.
They need to find a way to at least go for a top 4 here.
Okay, really interesting remover there. Actually, chooses to put 3rd item on Briar and instead go with the the Trickster's glass on the Karma. So 2 Karmas in the back line now, and really wants to be able to see if that Briar is able to get into the back line and with the 3rd item have enough damage to clear that out.
Does get CC, though will eventually make it to that backline, but not in the fashion that we planned.
Still
Will
alive.
work out for Disho. On the left-hand side, Gobo fighting for survival against Sobio's mage board. And I fear this one might just be a chunk too big.
There's
The
some upside with the
Seraphine's still
matchup. You have so much
firing.
healing that the Seraphine doesn't really do anything. She's just tickling the Bard re-heals. It's all about the Zanya's proc, though. I think, yeah, the Bard is it's just a good
worked
matchup.
out.
It's a rare one, but the healing, especially with both Wit's End and Gunblade, allows for you just to re-heal every single burst damage from the mages.
But with both of the bottom players that are still in holding on, that means the field is moving closer. So we could see a bunch of eliminations coming in a couple of seconds. First carousel, though, that Milio could be interesting for a Fairy player. Will be picked up by Darkest.
And Malt showcasing, I think, at this point, yet again, snapshotting his HP, the multi-striker, and what it does for you as a reroll comp. Was so stable stage 3, has lost a few fights, yes, but is still sitting at the very top of the standings. At the very least, it should be a top 4 guaranteed simply off of the HP buffer.
And the Nashers is off of the cast at this point. It is onto the Ash, but it did its job in stage 3, though. So I am convinced at this point, for the time, it was very, very strong.
Disho trying to find anything to push him over the edge there. Doesn't even have enough to get a combat charm. On the other side, though, Tucci also standing on 1 life. Is able to get 3 Thieves Gloves. So with the Milio, who does give items to your team, once you don't have those item slots, what he does instead is give the additional damage amplification, right? So having fewer item slots on this team actually ramps up that Milio damage amp even faster in the fight.
That's a great point. We're going to be seeing whether or not it is enough on the right-hand side. Tucci also trying to survive here as players are lower and lower. But Sobio is waiting for Dish Soap, and there is a Gwen that's been knocked back all the way. That was your main carry for Dish Soap. Can she still come back? It doesn't look too good. That's going to be an unfortunate loss coming on through for Dish.
Darkest as well. Takes a bit of a hit despite having the rise on the right side for the Kalista. Just too strong of a comp. It looks like the setup here from Tucci.
Yeah, Dish still only going to be at 10 points after this game, so definitely concerning, right? 3 more games to go. If Dish goes out in the bottom 8 of the Tactician's Crown, a big surprise for everyone.
A lot of positioning troubles and puzzles here for Darkest to solve across his stage 5, stage 6, where there is so much punishment for clumping. There is so much punishment in terms of, AoE, CC, but also just AoE damage. Trying to maybe not get the full value from the randoms in this case. We'll see.
Ooh.
Still missing some of those upgrades as well. You're not on the Milio 2, you don't have the Diana 2 upgrades. That would help, especially because they are those legendary units that round this comp out.
And Rise wrong
we
side.
are going to be trying to take down the enemy board, and it's once again Sobio that's waiting there. Milio trying to clear out these items, but the Rise is a long way to get to that.
Eric tanking for so long, though. That could be enough. No Rise pass, though, and that changes the outcome entirely. Darkest knows it. Very unfortunate. Is it a good enough loss?
Yeah, still
I think
alive.
it is. Darkest
You're
is still
still
up.
alive.
Wow, yeah, really tough fight for Darkest there. He was wrong side so that the Rise didn't target the Seraphine, but the Taric ult was blocking the Seraphine from getting to the Rise. So ultimately, it came down to, does this double Archangel's Rise get a final proc off? If the Rise casts there, he wins the fight. And sometimes it's a game of a half-second difference.
Yeah, it's so hard for this comp even to get into the top 4 usually, right? 6 Scholar is where this comp sees a lot of success, so just being stuck on the 4, right? You have all the upgraded units, you have some really great items, honestly. The scaling with double Archangels and the Rise is going to be good. Taric has a bunch of good items, but still, right? Darkest 2 loss streak for them right now.
I just quickly want to mention that Gobo has found a 4-win streak since we last checked in with him. How is the Bard doing? The Bard just seems to be thriving up there on 13 HP. Still has a little bit of gold, but of course the entire field is rolling right now to try and make it into those top 4. Besides Sobio, he's sitting at the top very comfortably. But here is the Bard, and we're actually seeing a little bit of change in approach as the Ahri is now helping out.
I'm actually so surprised this is on a 4-win streak. I thought there's no way that Bard can like solo carry. Sure, there's a little bit of damage coming out of this Ahri now with 2 items. The Mordekaiser, right, only 2-star. The Tahm Kench, only 1.5 items, right? Like, where else is the success coming from?
Unfortunate matchmaking. EMEA versus EMEA, and elimination is guaranteed here between Darkest and Gobo. We'll see if Bard or Rise will come out on top.
Well, the charms more often than not play a little bit of a part here. Both of these players did pick one up,
Nice.
but it looks like that Bard
Mike
is
clear.
very long
The
to
1v1.
get it. Yes, he does.
Wow.
Unfortunate, EMEA had to get out here, but Suchi also getting eliminated, and it might come down to the wire.
Okay, yeah, 5th place for Darkest. Honestly, I think both Gobo and Darkest were probably very happy to see each other. It's the 2 players that were both low life totals and relatively to the lobby easier wins. And the only other person I could think of we didn't see exactly how it ended up was Mauld, who actually might have even gotten a TG from that last charm. So overall, I think you're actually pretty happy. Even though Darkest went out 5th there, that was his best chance to top 4.
Just a quick note on Sobio here. You are seeing that it's not as stable anymore, but the big point for Sobio is going to be to go level 9 to then try and fit in those 5 mages, and that's what we're going to see him try to do. But of course, needs to get there, needs to find those mages, and also needs to find that level. So for now, it's kind of just hanging tight, and that's great news for players like Gobo who are just trying to claw their way up there.
Great matchup once again. The healing from both the Ahri and the Bard could counter a lot of that burst damage from those mages. That is the case for now. It seems like Mordekaiser hanging on for so long. The Zhonya's is already proc. Big win for Gobo. Really surprising me personally with a comp that we don't see much of at all, especially Bard without the Hui duo carry. I think it's one of the first times I've seen this the entire set, really.
I have to wonder if a part of it is actually off the back of the Spellblades, where you have the Archangels plus Spellblades plus the blue buff on the Bard. It's 3.
Where you have enough damage just from that Bard as a main
And
character.
then you get the additional damage amp from the Bard from ulting on a certain unit. It's a very creative play where it's all of these additional components that you normally don't see add together, but they're greater than the sum of their parts.
And they're Bard. I'm down, dude. I saw a Bart 3. That's all I ever wanted from this Tactician's Crown. I didn't think we'd get there.
On level 6 even as well is crazy fast. Mauld, unfortunately, only has 6 multi-strikers. There's no Ashe on this board.
Great positioning as well, keeping the Bard and the Ahri as far away from the big, scary Kassadin. Yeah. We'll see if it'll be enough. We'll see if there's enough burst damage to take down the Kassadin despite the Hand of Justice. It seems like it is going to be the case that Mordekaiser hanging on for so long. And Gobo continuing to impress, continuing to eliminate. Mauld has done his job, though.
Yep, that's right.
Dude, I love how slow the Bard animation is. It feels like a wall that's running towards you that's inevitable to dodge, but somehow you know he's coming and it's Bard. But we're getting a carousel with a lot of emblems here.
Ooh, not
Not
With,
necessarily
people are going
what
to use.
players are looking for.
Fairy player already fell earlier with Tucci. I did just want to say I am a Bard believer now, though,
And
I'm down.
The top three, I think, really exemplifies the reroll meta right now, right? The top three rerolls, we're going to see Jinx, we're going to see Mages, and we're going to see
And
Bard.
No, I'm down. I'm so okay for players to look at this and say, I guess Bard is a unit we should be rerolling and come back with it
This
tomorrow.
is the day one bait. ESA GoPro is really showcasing.
I think it's actually worth to call out that our top four, I'm going to ignore the Bard for a second. Our top four is full of the reroll variations that didn't actually hit the conditions in which you can traditionally top one, right? So maybe the closest is actually this mage board where you have the Spellcaster's Toolbox, but Robin not having the Hunter +1, Mauled not finding the Multicaster +1, or a Camille on 8. But because everybody narrowly missed their opportunity for a top one, we're now in a position where they all can.
Well, they also all can get eliminated because that's how close
looking
this
very
lobby
different.
is. And that is going to be the end of the line for that Bard. It was a great run. Personally speaking, I didn't think this comp would ever make a top 3 in any of these universes, but it did. And I think Gobo did well with it. But it's going to come down to the Hunters and the Mages here.
I believed for a moment that Gobo could win this, but unfortunately, Bard not on the top of the reroll train. But I think talking about the conditions of the first place, right? BO is very close. BO got to go to level 9, so regardless of just like if we can get to that like 5 or 7 mages, right? There's still going to be really great items on that Seraphine, on that Soraka, and just a bunch of units in the front line providing time is what might put BO on the top, but positioning does matter a lot here. Oh, and it's good positioning for BO.
Bio kind of cheering himself on there as we go into what will be the final fight between Robin and him. Seraphine is in a great position to try and hit that Jinx as soon as possible. Will she do so? No, she actually goes to the other side, but it's enough. And Bio takes yet another first place. And look at just this man has infinite aura. He's so infectious in terms of energy. It's great.
I said it, the most electrifying man in TFT. We're seeing it at work right now.
12 points, another win, 20 points after 3 games. An incredible start for BO. I wonder what Ego did in his lobby because they both had a really hot start. Ego then went 8th in game 2. If Ego had a comeback there, I imagine Brazil fans incredibly happy to see this performance from their players in these first 3 games.
Yeah, and BO was one of the least talked about Brazilian players, right? Coming into even the America's Golden Spatula, coming now to the Tactician's Crown, but really putting up some great success. And this is second Tactician's Crown, right? He was here before, got into the top half, and is making a statement to not only go top half, but maybe even top 8.
I think there are 2 primary ways you can gain respect in TFT. The first is having consistent results over a period of time. And the second is by grabbing the opportunity that's in front of you and forcing all eyes upon you. That feels like that's what's happening to Sobio right now.
Yeah.
Honestly, I know I feel like I'm just raving on about it, but I want to commend Gobo for getting that Bart off the ground and running. Now, if you had told me that a Bart would make top 4, I would have laughed at you. if just a Bart reroll on his own, but it just goes to show how wide some of these player approaches are. And Gobo was saying that YBY1 out of APAC is his favorite player in the world, and it's just so cool to see a similar kind of approach to the game to try and play to those ads, to try and play to those caps from Gobo here on his own.
Yeah, definitely. Talking about wide approaches, right? We saw both ends of the spectrum there. Juan Mia try to go wide in terms of options with that spin to win, but with a fine vintage, not something you see every day, didn't work out though. But Gobo with that bar prioritization, made it into the top 3. That is job well done there.
And I will say, I think some of the losers in this lobby, it comes down to not really having the econ